Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world, maybe even some pro football fans. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, but not today, not right now, not on this one. This one's featuring Bill Bender of the Sporting News. I'm not going to hurt Clay's feelings, but maybe it's an upgrade. What do you think?
No, absolutely
yeah, Clay
not.
knows. Clay knows. Clay's taking care of family responsibilities, man. And, he and I are both, quote, retired, end quote, but not really, if you follow my drift, Bill. And you will, because the way I understand it, on October the 12th, 2025, you're turning 46 years old. So you're ticking up closer and closer to that retirement age, right?
Oh, not even
Which,
close.
by the way, keeps moving on you.
Yeah, like, what is the retirement age? No, I was thinking you were going to say ticking closer and closer to 50, which would have been just fine. But
same thing.
Yeah. It is always a fun weekend, because I think being born in October, you love football. This is when college football really swings. I can't believe we are already to the mid-season point of the season. And fittingly, my Packers are playing the Bengals on the birthday, and a lot of my friends love the Bengals. So I'll be stressed out if the Packers, as we said before, go 0 for Joe Flacco.
That's just hard to believe they would go 0 for Joe Flacco.
0 for Ohio, 0 for Joe Flacco. You won't find me Monday if that happens.
And Flacco had very little to do with the first 0. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
If anything, he just didn't, quote, get in the way, end quote, at the end, But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, both of these teams still in search of themselves, these two pro teams in Ohio, isn't it? I mean, you wonder what Ohio football fans would be thinking right now if Ohio State was like 1-5.
Well, they'd probably be thinking what Penn State / Eagles fans are thinking right now. I mean, after last weekend and the stunning value, and I've talked about that all week, Tim, where I said, could you fathom living around here in Columbus if Ohio State went out to the Rose Bowl and lost to a 24-point underdog that was 0-4? That was
0-4. Yeah.
The radio wouldn't stop.
Of course not. The ride them out of town on a grease pole thing, from the old days. I mean, there would be all kinds of like uproar. It'd be crazy because I remember, there've only been a couple of years when I've been covering Ohio State, and this is the 42nd year covering Ohio State where there was anything close to that. Obviously in the transition year from 87 to 88 when John Cooper's first team went 4-6-1, that was tough, but people kind of gave it up to him because they had fired Earl Bruce and the talent wasn't there then. But John Cooper worked really hard and his staff worked really hard to getting the talent rolling back in again. And then of course in 2000, that was a tough year because obviously they fired John Cooper at the end of it. 1999, they didn't go to a bowl game because back then you couldn't go to a bowl game unless you were over 500. Right. Now you can because the bowl games are running out of teams, And then of course in 2011 went 6-7 under Luke Fickell, but they didn't have their 5 of their stars most of that season. Then of course Terrell Pryor left to go to the NFL rather than stand in front of the committee.
Well, what about, like, you were at both of them? Does it even compare to Ohio State, say, losing to Purdue in the Tyler Trent game? Does it compare to Ohio State losing at Iowa?
Yes,
Iowa was,
both of those.
But I think the UCLA loss is so much worse.
But both of those losses kept Ohio State out of playing in the college football playoff. So it had ramifications. Yeah.
Right.
But this was different. Purdue had Rondale Moore and some really good players, but they were still a pretty decent underdog. And Ohio State, that was when it was clear Ohio State had to do something about his defense, man. I mean, they just imploded in that game. Couldn't tackle Rondale Moore. This is interesting because I think things sometimes happen when you look back on them for a reason. And before James Franklin didn't lose these kind of games, right? And I say James Franklin, he's not playing, but James Franklin, the coach, now he's lost this kind of game on top of losing the kind of game he always loses or has always lost, which is that top 5, top 10, whatever you want to call it kind of game. So I'm curious on where this goes now, because they still have to come to Ohio State and play Ohio State.
Well, and that is literally the back against the wall moment. I was at Penn State, Oregon, okay, and I was ready to write going into that second overtime, and Penn State had the ball. I'm ready to write, hey, they finally did it.
Yeah.
Good for James Franklin, good for Drew Aller, good for everybody.
And that's Oregon, the number 2 team or number 2 or number 3 team in the country right now.
Right. And then bang, interception by Dylan Thieneman. James Franklin, I think he was still stunned in the press conference after, and we've sat in a lot of those, and it was almost like he was very accountable. That's one thing, right? He recognizes, knows what the record is. But I thought, okay, well, they'll go beat UCLA, and then it just comes down to Indiana and Ohio State. Now you are at a situation where a Penn State team was number 2 in the country to start the season. I'm thinking best case scenario, they're 9-3. And how does that sit with the program? Let me ask you this, Tim. This program has not won a national championship since 1986. So why does this program think it's a national championship program when it's been 40 years? It's different at Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama. I would even argue, even though they haven't won one, I think Oregon can expect to at least compete for one. But Penn State, that is what they're going to wrestle with, because I don't think Franklin's going anywhere.
He's kind of like in high jumping. Once you clear this bar, you're supposed to always be able to clear that bar and maybe jump higher.
Right.
My wife was a high jumper in college. She had the Ohio State record for a while and stuff, but she always aspired to go higher. Pardon the that was almost a rhyme. Once you clear a bar, you're underachieving if you don't get to that bar. And like you just said, since 1986, Penn State hasn't gotten there. I thought they got robbed at least once during that time, but that was during the Pole era.
94.
Yeah. And, but now, now it's expected, but why is it expected? I've always asked Ohio State fans, why do you think it's your birthright to win national championships when between 1968, and I know some people count 70, I don't, 1968 and 2002, you didn't win one, Now, you competed for several during that time. And I would argue that the 86 team at the end of the year, even though they did lose to Michigan in the guarantee game that Jim Harbaugh made, they lost their first 2 games of that year and then went on a 9-game win streak because they played in an extra game and then lost to Michigan. They played in the Kickoff Classics, the extra game I'm talking about. They got beat by Alabama, then killed by Washington, and then went on a 9-game win streak, but then got missed a field goal at the end of the game and got beat by Michigan, and then beat Texas A&M and Kyler Murray's dad in the Cotton Bowl. And then you're thinking, boy, they're back now, and Earl Bruce is even wearing suits and hats and stuff. But then 87 was super disappointment. You lose Chris Carter before the season starts. My point is, since 68 until 2002, they had not won a national championship. They had competed for several in the 90s under John Cooper. And you could argue the 96 and 98 teams were, if there had been a college football playoff, they probably would have won because they had the 2 best teams. Those teams were the best in the country, in my opinion. So, but the point is, once you've done it, people expect it, man.
And that's what I was going to say. I think the counter to that is, since Jim Tressel and they win one in 2002, I think 2002 on program expectation is to win a national title.
Yep.
And you had Urban got one or Ryan Day got one.
Each decade.
But they've had 3, 4, 5 teams that could have won one.
Right.
And they're always in the mix.
But see, why isn't that good enough to have a team that's what I always ask. Why isn't that good enough for satisfactory for the fans? You can aspire to the national championship, but why isn't it enough for your pride to know that you had a team that was competing for it?
Well,
you understand what I'm saying?
I do, but your high jump analogy fits this year because Ohio State just won a national title and had 14 guys go to the NFL draft. And I've watched them through 5 games, and I'm thinking, and you try not to say it out loud, but you're like, they're better this year.
They could be better. But offensively, I'm not sure they're there yet.
Defensively, because of the running backs.
You're right. Defensively, we're looking at, you hate to say it out loud, right? Like you said, right? We're looking at something semi-historic in the sense of the modern era. to be able to play defense like they're playing right now. They've given up 2 touchdowns in the first 5 games. I don't care who you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Even mighty Ohio your mighty Ohio University
9
came
points, a season high 9 points against Ohio State. Thank you.
There you go. But
so you said the word, and we've got to the point where it's historic. And I've done this a couple times at Sporting News where we get to this point in the season and a defense is playing at that elite level. Alabama had one with I think it was like Jonathan Allen, Reuben Foster, those guys, and they were at this point in the season. Georgia had one a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
3 of the last 4 national champions, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, led the nation in scoring defense.
Yeah.
So it's not rocket science, right?
No.
And I would ask you, I mean, you've been around it. So how do you go from we're doing our midseason All-American team next week, and I made the joke. I mean, we could save half the meeting if you guys just want to put Ohio State's front 11 on there. How is this happening?
It's happening because, number one, they've been recruiting their rear ends off. They've gotten really good players. The foundation was laid because 4 years ago, Ohio State couldn't stop me and you and Jeff Didoff. Tito.
They can't stop Tito anyway.
Tito, give me a deep route,
right.
And Bill, give me a dig route underneath that, and I'm going to hit you wide open. And you're going to do your crazy legs Hirsch impression and score. Jim Knowles got it fixed, in my opinion. Put in some great foundation work, but also you got Tim Walton sitting there now on the defensive side. You got James Laurinaitis and Larry Johnson, the Rock, head coach in the defensive lineman, along with other, now almost anybody in the building can coach. Matter of fact, I think anybody in the building can coach. So that's really enhanced it. Then on top of that, now you come in, you lost 8 starters, but everybody who's playing right now pretty much played last year, right? A lot. And on top of that, you come in and now you've got this guy, Matt Patricia, who clearly has pixie dust, whatever you want to call it. Now, I call it sprinkles on your ice cream. When you get ice cream, now he's put his sprinkles on it, and their sprinkles are changing. It's kind of like going through that buffet line for toppings at an ice cream place. His sprinkles change, or his toppings change every week. The way he's mixing and matching things with talented, not just talented, very athletic players, guys who are fast. Almost everybody on that, even Caden McDonald, their nose is fast, man. And you're topping it with, you're putting these sprinkles on it now with shifts and changes and emphasis and rolling the coverage and doing all these little things, which they were doing somewhat last year, but you're doing it in a different way than you did a year ago. So nobody has tape on you.
Right. And I think, they're an example along with Michigan when they went to Wink, and people were kind of questioning that. I actually like having an NFL coordinator with a defense that has all this talent you're talking about.
Absolutely.
You're looking at Caden Curry, 8.5 tackles for loss. Caden McDonald, 6 tackles for loss. You've got Arvell Reese is being compared across the board to, like Abdul Carter, as that just like complete menace on the out, at the linebacker. And then we haven't even talked about like Sonny and Caleb, who were preseason All-Americans to begin with. And you mix all of that together. I also would love to hear your thoughts. I mean, my thoughts on the offense watching it, and Julian Sayin's been super accurate. We know they're great at receiver. The running game was questioned. I would say I don't know if the running game is as good as it was last year, but when you lose look what Quinshot and Travion are doing on Sunday.
Right.
But it's coming around.
Right.
Around Bo and some others. So again, Tim, my thing is, I think they're better than they are last year. And I want to see how that's tested when they go to Illinois, who is a quality opponent on the road.
Yes, absolutely a quality opponent. I mean, Brett Bielema, it's really funny. I was talking about this on the radio the other day. Brett Bielema, when he was at Wisconsin, just because of circumstance, et cetera, they hardly, they couldn't throw the ball, 2 weeks in a row and be good at it. And now you got Luke Altmaier. It just shows you when you have a talented quarterback and then he comes back for yet another year, how that can pay dividends for you. And Brett Bielema has kind of embraced throwing the football. Now, some of those stats are sort of exacerbated by the fact that in USC they were in a dogfight at Indiana. They were never in the fight, but still tried to throw the ball and get back into the fight, right? So some of those passing stats are a little bit warped. But last week against Purdue, they threw the ball extremely well. And this week against Ohio State, this Ohio State defense against Texas was supposed to be able to line up and run the ball, couldn't do it. And then Arch Manning looked like a first-year freshman thrown into the fray and sink or swim. And he was out there throwing some of the stupidest looking passes I've ever seen. I mean, the Patrick Mahomes stuff that was falling 5 yards short and things like that. How has he gotten better? I'm not sure. We'll find out on Saturday when they play Oklahoma in the Red River Showdown, as they call it now. But the point is, this defense last week, that Drake Lindsey kid for Minnesota had been threw the ball extremely well the week before against Rutgers because they finally said let it rip. And last week had all the earmarks of being a showdown in the shoe of two teams throwing the football because Minnesota begs you to throw the football on them, and Ohio State did.
Right.
Well, one side showed up throwing it, and one side showed up trying to throw it, but not very well. A little bit fairly well between like the 30s to a certain extent, but the Ohio State defense showed, yes, it can handle it. I mean, against good defenses, this, Bill, you've got to throw the ball. That's where the fewer defenders are. So against Ohio State, you've got to throw the ball. Ohio State's already shown, for the most part, they're going to shut down your running attack. I mean, that's five pieces of evidence now against varying degrees of talent on the offensive side of the ball, and teams have not been able to establish a run against Ohio State. You got to throw the ball. Ohio State went into the Georgia game a couple of years ago, the one they lost in the fourth quarter in the college football playoff semifinal. They're going to throw the ball. Throw the ball. Right. That's what you got to do against Georgia, and everybody's picked up on that, right? And so, so I think Illinois, to have a shot on Saturday, has to throw the ball.
Well, that's what you're looking at too, and.
Ohio State ready for that?
What makes it an interesting test? I mean, you look at Luke Altmaier's numbers in that, and I call it, this is where you find out you can be a thrower or are you a pitcher.
Yes.
In that 10 to 19 range, 10 to 19 yard passes, he is 70%, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. He can play a little bit. I actually like Luke Altmaier as a potential day 2, day 3 quarterback in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
I like his game. They have Hank Beatty, who can do a little bit of everything. So they have guys on the offense, and I tend to agree with Ryan.
Tight end's really nice. I like him.
I don't think you're getting the Illinois that got blown out by Indiana on Saturday. I think you're getting Illinois in an all-in game at home. And about the environment at Memorial Stadium. It's definitely their all-in moment, and I think they're going to give Ohio State a good shot. Now, what that good shot translates into the scoreboard, I think it'd be something like 35-10. 38-10. But can somebody get to 10? Somebody's got to get to 10 on Ohio State before I can take that conversation further.
Correct. USC played over there a couple of weeks ago, and USC is not totally back yet, but I think they've made definite progress, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That turned into a dogfight, but USC scored points on Illinois at Illinois. I really do believe this Ohio State offense is better than that USC offense. I don't know if you agree or not.
Yeah, they are. But I think the thing with USC is Mayave is very good too. I mean, obviously leads the it's the receivers that's the difference. I'm talking
about the whole package.
Right. When you have everything, like USC's got a strong running game, strong receivers. Lemon's really good playmaker. But when you're throwing to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, it's pretty tough to stop. And then they're not the only two. So
right.
And when your quarterback's throwing, I've said this all week, when your quarterback has an 80.2 completion percentage, there are college quarterbacks that out on a 7-on-7 with nobody on them might not hit 8 of 10 in practice.
Correct.
It's wild.
This guy's different. We've been saying it all along. You like his release. Then you see him under duress a few times. You like how he stood in there. You like how he's escaped on several occasions. I'm talking about Julian Sayin right here. And barring injury, he's only going to get better, which is like hard to believe. And so I think Ohio State is finding its stride offensively, and then defensively, like you said. I mean, they're going to get after Illinois. And the thing about it is the last several games, I think even Ohio U, I'm trying to remember, the games kind of run into each other now and you're in my head, but had a little bit of success early moving the ball, but that's where Ohio State, the defense is taking its measure of what it is you're going to try to attack against them. And what I've been so impressed with is the way this defense, it starts with the coaches, but it includes the players. This is a smart group of defensive players and guys who are sneaky veterans, have some sneaky veteran to themselves, like Caden Curry, like Kenyatta Jackson. We'll see if Kenyatta Jackson is cleared to play in this game. It hadn't been stated clearly yet, but these are guys that have been around. Sonny Styles, who's now looks so much more like a linebacker than he did this time a year ago,
Right.
And, but these are guys, Caleb Downs, there's no better safety in the country that has the entire package of Caleb Downs to be able to study for an opponent, prepare for an opponent, coach up his teammates for an opponent. Then as the game ensues, see what's going on and adjust on the fly, on the field. You can see him doing that. But then Caleb Downs, I want to keep hammering this point because I think he's the best pound-for-pound defensive player in the country. Then he can go and actually make the play. Right. There are a lot of guys that get that cerebral part but don't get the other part. A lot of guys that have the physical part but can't do the cerebral part. He is such a coach on the field kind of guy. But then they're coming to the sidelines, and there's Matt Patricia already with the replay screen in his hand, and they're looking at plays live or live to video and making adjustments. And then you've got Matt Patricia basically sicking one of the great weapons in college football this year, which is Arvell Reese. From play to play, you don't know where he's lining up. I mean, you made an alluded to Abdul Carter. I think he is so much more dynamic than Abdul Carter because Arvell Reese can cover tight ends, or he can cover out in the flat, or he can come quickly off the edge and be in a quarterback's face, and he can spy. And because he's so athletically gifted, Matt Patricia has definitely found his sweet spot. Right. With Arvell Reese.
And every down matters. So Ohio State's allowed 12.8 first downs per game. And the only four defenses who have allowed fewer, I found this really fascinating going into this weekend, by the way. Missouri, 10.3, leads the nation. They're playing Alabama, and it's their all-in moment. If you want to talk about an all-in moment for a program.
Yep.
And one other thing real quick. Last weekend showed me Alabama still has the largest target in the SEC on their back.
Yeah.
Vandy made it their big game. Mizzou, Tennessee will do that next weekend. The next three, Oklahoma, 11 first downs. So for the Arch Manning, what do we call? I don't even know what to call it right now. Arch Manning bashers, Arch Manning flop truthers, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to call them.
I have a long piece on Sporting News about why I don't think any of that's true. And I think
really
some of the coverage of Arch is somewhat embarrassing, in my opinion.
The way it swung from one way to the next.
Let's go there. Well, real quick.
Yeah, go.
Indiana and Oregon are next.
Yeah.
So 11.5, 11.8, Ohio State 12.8. That's why that Indiana-Oregon game is probably going to be more defensive than people think.
Yes.
I really believe that.
I agree.
Scoring. They're really good defenses. But let's talk about Arch for a second. Let's take a swerve because he did play Ohio State in the opener.
You're talking about Arch Manning, not Arch Griffin.
Archie Griffin, we already know. He lived up to the hype, okay?
Yeah.
But Arch Manning, I don't know if he's going to get that second Heisman Trophy or that first one, but here's the thing, and I talked to Kirk Bowles about it this week. Kirk's covered all but one Red River rivalry since 1971. It might be the best stat of the weekend.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's big.
Great guy. And as he pointed out, Arch is not playing well, but their offensive line is bad.
Yes.
Their running backs. Arch Manning is Ohio State. Not Ohio State's leading rusher. He's Texas's leading rusher.
Yeah.
Matthew Golden's in the NFL. Their tight ends in the NFL. His two bad games are against perhaps historically good Ohio State defense and a Florida defense that I think is really damn good, especially at the Swamp.
I agree.
So we've got to label him a flop, bust, all this stuff. I'm guilty of labeling him a Heisman contender, number one preseason, all that stuff. I'm guilty of that, and I don't regret it. Much like when I just don't regret it. And here's why. I think he's going to get better in time with reps. I think by next season, and I do think he'll return to school, that you'll get a much better version of him. Texas will improve the offensive line. They'll have a little bit more help around him. He was really good when he had all those guys around him last year. So I think that's coming next year. It reminds me in some ways, and I'm not going to say all the way, Tim, it reminds me of Joe Burrow's first year at LSU. Mm-hmm. Wasn't great. Next year was unbelievable. And I'm not saying Arch is going to throw 60 touchdowns next year and be the number one pick for the Bengals.
I'm with you.
But I do think labeling him a bust, a flop, and those kind of things is, in my opinion, irresponsible.
You know, remember that a few minutes ago when I was talking about this Ohio State defense and the guys who were sneaky good that came back and 3 starters back, and then you throw in the pixie dust, the sprinkles of Matt Patricia. That's what Arch Griffin went up against in the opener with an offensive line that wasn't ready for prime time. Number one. Number two, but there are a lot of things I watched him just physically in that game I didn't like. Mechanics. I didn't like the resorting to that little Patrick Mahomes flip, as I call it, because he can't do it. You can do it against Sam Houston State. Give me a break. So that bothered me. It bothered me. I'm talking about just looking at Arch. It bothered me last week against Florida. I went back and watched a very huge amount of that game, and it bothered me at times when he seemed quite confused by what he was looking at from a defensive standpoint that Florida was throwing at him and Texas. And this is now with plenty of video on Florida to understand what's going on. I'm not sure the fault, though, is as much with him as it is Sarkisian and his staff, like you're talking about. I mean, they haven't, in my opinion, they still haven't hit the sweet spot yet. I thought they scored enough points last week to beat Florida, but they let Florida score. Right. And that's the toughie, because you got to be better than that defensively 5-6 games into the season. That's what bothers me most about Texas. And to think about Texas was the number one team in the country, according to, because everybody was
Sporting News. We had them
Sporting News, Associated Press, and the coaches poll. They all had Texas number one, I do believe, going into the opener against Ohio State. And to think that everybody was that wrong on Texas as the team, much less Arch. Right?
It's less about Arch to me.
It's all about what'd you do at the end of the year last year, and people are going, well, they're going to be better because now they got Arch.
But Tim, you could say the same thing. Like, Ohio State lost 14 guys to the NFL.
Texas lost 12.
And that's what I'm saying. So why is Ohio State not missing a beat?
Because Ohio State's got really, number one, it was cool. It was critical that opener was at Ohio State.
Correct.
And Ohio State only won 14-7, not 28-7.
So,
right?
I understand.
So what I'm trying to tell you is I'm trying to argue both sides of the thing, both sides of the argument here. That was a tough, just like Ohio State, Alabama opening at Florida State, which had all these new players. And boom, Florida State put a knot on their head, right? Well, now Alabama hasn't lost since then.
Well, I think Alabama is very good.
No, but my point is sometimes that opener is far from a referendum on what you're about. What's bothered me about Arch Griffin,
Nothing bothers
even
us.
I did it.
Nobody.
Right.
Nothing bothers us about Archie Griffin. He's the man.
What bothers me about Archie Manning, I have not seen the progress there from him just running things, except Sam Houston State. You're going to stand up and you're going to lord over a Sam Houston State player to show you're all that. That bothered me because that's not really, I don't know. That just
I didn't care about that.
Well, no, it just bothered me. It's like, do that against Oklahoma this week. I'll throw you flowers.
Flex over an Oklahoma.
Yeah, flex over an Oklahoma guy after you've won the game. Then I'll have a lot more.
They'll be doing a lot of like that. Okay, that's part of the Arch Manning experience, though. Like, to me, also, like, no other quarterback in the country has every little detail written about him.
Right.
Julian Sayin didn't have 1,000 stories written
but
on
Julian
him.
Sayin hadn't flexed on anybody.
He might.
Julian Sayin's had 300-yard plus passing games.
If Julian Sayin runs over Rod Moore at Michigan and flexes over
that's
him,
a different.
It's going to be a wallpaper all over Central Ohio for the next.
If he goes
decade.
Zach Boren on it, if he goes Zach Boren on it,
I know. On my Facebook there, I have Facebook friends that still have the Zach Boren.
Of course they do. It's one of the great.
So that's why
great moments.
Arch does that. Didn't bother me at all, honestly, because I see guys flex over guys.
No,
everything.
You don't understand what I didn't what I didn't like about it was who the opponent was. If you're not beating Sam Houston State, you're in deep trouble. Sam Houston State has moved up to FBS, I do believe, but because I grew up in Lufkin, Texas, which is almost halfway between Sam Houston State and Stephen F. Austin State University. I know what kind of there's good football down there, but not on the level of Texas yet. And that's what bothered me. Flex against Florida. You know what I mean? That's my point.
Fair. So
that's kind of like being a bully, like more of a bully kind of guy who then gets punched in the mouth the next week or 2 weeks later by Florida, and they don't win. You know what I mean?
Maybe. Well,
it's like a Christmas story.
My point is too that he was. It's almost Christmas story time. That movie will be on every 10 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
If they beat Oklahoma, the hype will return. I'm not sure they will. I'm not sure John Mateer will play. I'm not sure John Mateer should play. But as Kirk told me, he is a Texas kid.
Let me ask you this. This is the era we now live in. Okay, the era has changed dramatically over the last 4 years. If there's any question about John Mateer, why would you play him? Meaning give him another week for that. It's on his throwing hand, right? Yeah.
I wouldn't play him this week.
I wouldn't play him because, dude, you can still make the college football playoff. You can still make the SEC playoff, right?
Right.
With him not playing this week, and whether you get a win or a loss, you're still in it. So I think this has given a lot of coaches a little bit of a leeway in terms of it being so critical for a guy to return who could be so critical to what you are as a team at the end of the season and whether you're in college football playoff shape or not. So I would not play him at all. I mean, just based on if there's any question on Monday of this week or Wednesday of this week, I wouldn't play him at all. Well, what's your take on that?
And they may be able to beat Texas without him anyway.
Well, may or may not, yeah.
And even if they don't, you live in this, you got to be smart. I mean, what if they did this with Bradford in this game, I believe.
Yes.
And he aggravated it.
Yes.
And then it was season over.
Yeah.
So
different era though.
Different era where it was all in, and the Bradford-McCoy rivalry was very real at the time.
Yes.
But yeah, I think they have that luxury, especially with the undefeated record and the non-con victory against Michigan in hand.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And John Mateer has nothing to prove to me from a gut standpoint. The guy is a player. Anyway, hey, let's get back to something. I wanted to throw this in there earlier in the week. We get to talk to players and coaches at Ohio State, and especially Ryan Day. And I wanted to play this little segment that Ryan Day had in his press conference. And I'll follow up with something that I asked him about. I think Lori Schmidt asked him about the progress of Brian Hartline as the offensive coordinator, play caller. And let's just listen to this for a second and then come back and kind of comment.
Yeah, he's doing great. It's never easy when you're doing something for the first time. And I think, he, has been really efficient. He's prepared for the games. He's got a good group around him. I think he understands that. And that's, we talk a lot about being, of course, not just calling plays. It's all the organization leading up to that, which he's learning every day, but he's got a great group of guys around him. He understands that part of it. And he knows at the end of the day, it's about players, not plays, and all those things. And when you're doing everything for the first time, there's learning opportunities, which I give Brian a lot of credit for. Like, he's not somebody that gets defensive or he wants to learn. He has that growth mindset, which is similar to what we're talking about with quarterbacks. I think that's why he's done so well just in life and in this game, is because he doesn't have a big ego when it comes to making a mistake. Once he makes a mistake, he's going to learn from it and grow from it. And so that's how you quickly get better at what you're doing. So still a long season to go, a lot of lessons to be learned, but I think for a first-time coordinator, he's off to a great start.
And last question, Tim May.
Thanks, Mike. I only got one question.
Can I get a second question?
Right. After the first game, the question was Julian Sayin his accuracy on the deep ball. Is it going to get there, et cetera? and now he's like basically the most accurate deep ball thrower in the country. Does that something that has to be generated through game reps? If you understand my question there, game speed is different, et cetera. And where have you seen him really work on that aspect of it?
Well, it starts with your feet, but a big part of it is the receivers. Those are long routes down the field, and you can only have so many of those within a week. Otherwise, you just blow the doors off your wideouts. So it has to be efficient. There's a system about how we do it, but you got to give the wide receivers credit, because there's times where, practice, they'll run the route and maybe the timing wasn't right, and they run back and the ball maybe, is late or behind, but they've learned to understand that this is about building confidence in the quarterback too. And so they put it in during the week, man, like they do. And because of that, it's given us a chance during the week. But there's a lot that goes with throwing the ball down the field, the footwork, the timing, all those things. And we work hard at it, but ultimately the players got to make the plays.
Yeah, interesting. I thought both those points were interesting only because Brian Hartline, is a first-year play calling offensive coordinator, not his first year as offensive coordinator. He's even co-offensive coordinator last year and learned under Chip Kelly. The previous year, Ryan Day had tried to make this move, and then I think Ryan Day got as much cold feet or missing doing it as it was Brian Hartline maybe not being up to snuff.
Well, and I think one of the misconceptions about Brian Hartline when he was hired was, they're just going to throw every play.
Yeah.
And
I like that, because if you know Brian Hartline, that's ahead.
Not any offensive coordinator. If you ask any offensive coordinator ever, they want to run the ball.
Yeah.
Right? Like 162 rushing attempts.
Sets up everything else.
136 passes. We mentioned Julian Sayin's incredible efficiency. You're talking about the running game. You got Bo's averaging 7 yards a carry, 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the receivers that you have the Ferraris on the outside, and he's using them properly. And I think you asked Coach Day about this notion that I've seen it's very real. Like, they're not running a ton of plays per game. And I think some of that is designed like last year, where they weren't running why aren't we running 80 plays a game? Because they can do tempo in the playoff.
Yeah.
You don't want to. Do you need to do tempo against Minnesota? And they had to do tempo for a little bit against Ohio, but
you seem to be bragging about that point. Go ahead now.
No,
I mean, you're being Ohio, you guy.
I am bragging.
You're
about
bragging
the fact
that
the
Ohio State had to press the gas a little bit
after the touchdown. They did.
I know,
after the one touchdown.
Yeah.
But they did.
Yeah.
But it's a slight brag. But no, I'm saying Ohio State is managing their workload for the playoff.
Yeah.
So you know what? Yeah, I'll be happy at the end of the season if the Bobcats have the most points on the Buckeyes.
And this is the point you're making without really making it or saying it is you have to be efficient. Right. When you're running an offense like this, you've got to be efficient, as the old saying goes. Stay on schedule, move the sticks, move the chains, and take your shots when they're offered to you. Last week Carnell Tate had 9 catches for 183 yards. 4 of those catches were 44, 47, and 49 yards. I mean, those are huge plays which take away other plays. You know what I mean? I mean, they take away other maybe 4 or 5. Any 40-yard gain is going to take away 2 or 3 plays you might have run in between. So, but then you're right. I mean, I think they've been really good at being efficient with what they've done on offense. But that puts more of a pressure on Brian Hartline to get him into the right play. Now, this Brian Hartline's not up there in a sealed booth throwing plays out there. It's plays that are agreed on during the week on a big sliding scale here of third and long, third and short, third and medium, whatever, that everybody's agreed on, including Ryan Day. Every play goes through Ryan Day's headsets. There's great conversation, if that's what you want to call it, maybe some arguing going on between plays, between series and stuff, between the offensive coaches about where they need to get to. It's not just Brian Hartline running a video game and pushing buttons, and
it kind of is though with those receivers.
Well, no, I'm talking about
what you mean.
I'm talking about the actual play calling.
I know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
With the 2 receivers, and I'm interested to hear you say that.
Spin move.
Jeremiah and Carnell combined for 59 catches, and Carnell's become the 18 yards a catch guy.
Yeah.
Jeremiah,
the off receiver.
well, I mean, you tell me what Jeremiah Smith is. I know he's the best player in the country.
Yeah.
I do. I still think he can win the Heisman.
Yeah.
I do. And it's, with the 6 touchdowns, the third, they're getting him plays. He's doing everything he needs to do. But you had you asked him a couple questions this week about what that rule is. And, there was that quote where he said, we've seen the clip of what was it? 5 Minnesota guys followed him.
Yeah.
And somebody else was in the end.
Well, hey, let's play it. I've got it right
do
here.
It.
Let's see what he said
People
there.
coming after you. I mean, what's your reaction when you're seeing that in real time?
When that happened, I seen all of them run at me. I just started laughing in their face, and I just threw my hand up because I knew it was a touchdown. So I just feel like I said, like a lot of people put a lot of attention on me, but Carnell Tate is dangerous for sure, and he showed the last weekend.
Yeah, I asked him a real bogus question right after that, but no, it was great because they ran basically, they've gotten him incorporated a few times in the running game. Now all of a sudden he comes in motion and you fake. He's part of the play action fake. There was like a double play action fake there. And then Carnell Tate just runs right by. Well, he put a little move on and runs right by the corner who's got him man to man. How do you stop that? Well, unless you've got the world's greatest corner who's not going to get bamboozled and you have faith in 2 or 3 guys making the play on Jeremiah, not 5.
Right. Well, Carnell Tate said afterward too. I was watching I had it on the background, the Channel 6 interview after, and somebody asked him, are you the best receiving tandem in the country? He said, I know we are.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me because this is my next question for you is Miami's got a pretty good receiving tandem.
Yeah.
Corley and Daniels. Alabama's got a decent receiving tandem.
Always
Brian
do.
Williams,
Always does.
Jeremy Bernard's having a really big year there. We've talked a lot about Ohio State and historic, and we haven't said untouchable, but if somebody could touch Ohio State and beat them, and you had to pick one team, who would it be?
It's got to be somebody. It's got to be somebody who can, like in a tennis. I don't know. Yeah. Do you like tennis?
It's okay.
Tennis is at its worst when one guy's a lot better than the other guy. I mean, believe me, I played it with a guy who was like the number 2 or 3 player at Texas. He was a friend of mine back in the 70s, and I had no fun. It's not like golf where you can go out and play your own game. The point is you've got to have somebody who can return serve. And I think Alabama's getting there offensively. I think Ty Simpson has really stepped up his game, but I think it's more like he's become comfortable, but also they've become comfortable. And I think their offensive line has really come on since the opener. Florida State tattooed them up front.
Ty Simpson's very good.
Ty Simpson's very good. I don't think Georgia has that capability this year.
I don't either.
And I don't think Georgia's always been vulnerable to the pass defensively, and Ohio State exposed that. Some other teams have, but you still got to outscore them, right? But I just don't think Georgia with Gunnar Stockton is as good throwing the ball. Definitely not LSU.
No.
Right? They're not even going to be in the picture. Well, clearly not Clemson. But I'm looking at a team that makes you fight left-handed. Michigan has made Ohio State fight left-handed the last 4 years. For even a mediocre Michigan team last year made Ohio State either fight left-handed or think it had to fight left-handed, which made no sense.
It did not.
And so you got to factor that into it, right? But like right now, I don't see anybody who can match Ohio State from the potential of its offense and the capability of its defense at this moment in the country. Oregon, perhaps.
Oregon's close. And
Indiana, by the way, I was saying this all off season, and people were laughing at me. They upgraded at quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. I like saying his name.
Wow, you got that in.
Fernando Mendoza.
Well done.
Dante Moore is a guy everybody wanted coming out of high school as a quarterback for Oregon, who's definitely stepped up his game now that he's the guy. Defensively, I don't know if either one of them is on the same level as Ohio State, but just in the Big Ten alone, I think Ohio State could end up facing one of those two teams in the Big Ten championship game, and that would be this week is so huge, right?
Well, I think you've hit every team I want to talk about. So one, Michigan. Big test out at USC. I think that's the most important game for the Big Ten playoff race this weekend, because if Michigan wins and you look at the rest of their schedule, they could easily be 10-1 when they play Ohio State. If they lose, they're looking at 9-2, going to be an underdog against Ohio State, and I don't think 9-3 gets in the playoff.
Yeah.
USC, same deal. They win, they're in good shape. They lose, they got to play at Notre Dame next week.
Yeah.
And then Oregon. So I think that game has a lot. Michigan has some interesting pieces. They are better offensively this year with Justice Haynes. I don't think Ohio State's going to fight them left-handed this year. I think they're just going to Hagler Hearns just come out of the corner and start swinging.
I don't think Michigan's as good defensively as it has been.
They're not.
I think that's a major point as you look forward to the game down the road.
They don't have Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant.
I think Indiana's got a tough schedule, right? They're still in the midst of it. But like I said, I think they're more equipped to play that schedule than they were last year. And I keep reminding people this until this nail gets bent the many times I've hit it. They lost twice last year to the two teams that played for the national championship.
And
I don't care who they played in their pre-conference schedule. That's crazy when you think about it.
Oregon and Indiana are two of the three teams in the country that rank in the top 10 in scoring offense and scoring defense.
Exactly.
They're very good, both of them. So I think one of those teams will end up playing Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, and it'll be a good game. The one team we got to talk a little bit about, though, is Miami. And what a great irony this would be if Ohio State marches to the national championship game and it's Miami trying to stop that streak.
Oh, yeah.
And stop, because they're the Miami fans know about the last one.
Yeah.
You know? And I think, are they good enough to beat Ohio State? I think they have a very good offensive line led by a potential number 1 draft pick. I think they have a very good defensive line led by a potential number 1 draft pick. I don't know if they have the volume of players, but I know they could hang around, and they have a very experienced quarterback who's played in a lot of big game environments, who's playing very well, and they have an excellent collection of victories. And their second half of the season schedule is not great. Miami's the one team I'm looking at, and I'm not saying they're better than Ohio State.
I didn't mean to leave them out a while ago.
I kind of want to see it, though.
Yeah.
I want to see them play Ohio State. That's my point.
I'm telling you, Ohio State's offensive line has a chance to be better than it was a year ago. And boy, that's saying a lot. They lost 2 starters last year at different times. And at the end of the year, I thought had the best offensive line in the country based on the way they handled 4 straight big time opponents in the championship run. But I think Miami has, just like Ohio State has, probably the best offensive line, defensive line combo right there with Ohio State in the country, potentially down the road. And I like that's where I always start any kind of analysis of a football team. How are you playing offensive and defensive lines, and then go from there? Because if you're not playing very well as you should be on either one of those fronts, and you're making up for it somewhere else.
Oh, I mean, imagine the storylines we would get to write about there. Jeremiah Smith versus Miami.
Oh yeah. By the way, hey, let me play this little soundbite from Jeremiah Smith also.
Absolutely.
That it's really funny you brought him up, because he and Brandon Ennis, were on that South Florida travel team, whatever you want to call it, 7-on-7 team together. And but
I bet they were okay.
Yeah, they were okay. But I just wanted to him talking about, just as this season is going on, what it's looking like from his standpoint.
He's very different. Just taking that step each and every week, just getting better each and every week. We see in the progress. I've been saying it since the all season that he's that guy. He can make any ever throw, and it's all starting to show.
How much more focus do you feel like defenses have been putting on you compared to last season? How much more difficult is it?
Yeah, I say it's pretty frustrating. Everybody that we play against just want to take me out the game. But, last week showed that we got another dominant receiver on the other side of the field. So, you can't just worry about me now. You got to worry about Cardinal Tate, you got to worry about Brandon Ennis, you got to worry about Max Clear, you got to worry about the tight end. So, it's whatever you want to do, take me out. Cardinal Tate go kill you, the run game go kill you, and the tight ends go kill you. So.
First, he was talking about Julian Sayin progress as a quarterback, and that's like we were talking about way back at the beginning of this. Julian Sayin's going to get better.
Right.
And he's already pretty damn good. PDG. But like he was just talking about there, shell game, defenses like to play a shell game where you take this away. Now what are you going to do? Right. And That's what sets Ohio State apart, I think, now, even above Miami. I truly believe that. Miami, though, Carson Beck looks totally different from
we were unfair to
swagger standpoint.
Well, we were unfair to Carson Beck last year, and I can tell you exactly why. I mean, the turnovers were there, the drops were there for his receivers.
Oh yeah,
and he lost Brock Bowers, who one of the best tight ends in the NFL, and he lost Ladd McConkey, who I don't think people thought he was going to be as good as he is in the NFL, but he's been fantastic.
Oh yeah,
so he's got, like I said, Corley, this kind of breakout receiver. He's got Daniels. The one thing that you worry about with Miami, you kind of saw last week, the difference with them in Ohio State too. They could have really just poured it on Florida State, and instead it got to the point where there was actually an onside kick at the end of the game.
Right. Right.
I think they'll get to the ACC championship game. If I was predicting, I would say they're probably going to play Georgia Tech, and that would be an interesting matchup there. But like you said, in terms of somebody that can really do it for 4 quarters and play tennis with them, actually play football, but football tennis.
Yeah.
It's outside of Michigan. That conversation we'll do next time I come on.
Yeah.
Because it'll probably be around that game time.
Yes.
Oregon and Indiana Oregon would be more interesting to me, because I think Oregon's just a little bit built up front to maybe try it. Mm-hmm. Especially on the defensive interior. They're pretty big up there.
Yeah. And plus they're explosive on offense on occasion. Yeah. And they've got a quarterback that's going to be getting better as the season goes on, and Dante Moore, barring injury. Indiana, I don't know how to encapsulate Indiana to make it understandable, except what they did to Illinois was stunning.
All right.
They got literally, it kind of reminds you of a crocodile who gets a hold of something and then he just thrashes in the water with it. That's what they did to Illinois.
Well, and I think they are a little bit of a new kid on the block as far as Big Ten contender, but we've seen.
But they're not a surprise this year. You can't be a surprise 2 years in a row.
Like Barry Alvarez did that at Wisconsin. I talked to Gary Danielson about this week. He said, Hayden Fry did that at Iowa.
Yeah.
Hayden Fry came from SMU with like you. He came to Ohio or the Big Ten country with cowboy.
Google me, except Google didn't exist back then.
You had sunglasses and cowboy boots on too.
Yeah. That's right.
It's been done. Joe Tiller did it at Purdue, kind of.
He got to the Rose Bowl.
This one feels a little different, though, because it might be a little more sustainable. They've got really good players right now.
Where they have been spectacular, I'm talking about Kurt Cignetti and his staff, is in the transfer portal, getting the right guys, not necessarily the superstar guy, although I think Fernando Mendoza could play a lot of places, and getting him from Cal was a big thing. But they've been really good at getting the right pieces that fit what they want to do. And I that's as genius as anything else you're doing. And Kurt Cignetti comes from FCS, basically. How did he have this all figured out?
Right.
But he did. He came with a plan. He didn't just come in here, hey, I'm happy to be here. He showed up with a plan to win from day one. And that's what's kind of hurt some of these schools in the past who've hired guys to fix their program, and they didn't show up with the plan, or at least a plan that fit their climate right there, for want of another cliche. And he showed up with a plan to fit the climate. And like I said, they lost 2 games last year to the 2 teams that played for the national championship. That's saying a hell of a lot in your first year at Indiana. Not your first year at like Michigan or something.
Oh, and I mean, this is the storyline to watch, and as we get down the stretch here with, I think the Big Ten's good for 3 playoff teams. I think Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon will all get in.
Yeah.
The big question is, can you get a 4th one? And to get a 4th one, you're going to need a 10-win team. And the 2 best bets for that to me are probably Michigan if they win Saturday. And then the other one would be Illinois if they've got a couple tricky games, but if a 10-2 Illinois team with a 1-point loss to USC, and if they compete Saturday, they'd be in the mix. But I don't know that Penn State or USC.
You don't think getting blown out early in the year is going to
it will hurt them very
like
much.
Ohio State, but that was just a 14 playoff back then.
It will hurt them, but it's not impossible. And then the other team just to keep an eye on, you're going to call me crazy, is Nebraska's got a soft schedule.
You're crazy. No,
yes, Nebraska's got a very soft schedule.
Yes.
And they've only got the 1 loss.
So this week's a big
Big one for them.
Yeah.
Big one for the Huskers. If they can keep going, they got to play USC too. And
right
down at the end of the road, they play, Iowa's beat them 13-10 twice. But
Yeah.
if Matt Rule could kind of push them into that conversation, it's not impossible. So that's kind of how I see the Big Ten picture going in the second half of the season.
Gotcha. Last thing, you're in ranking in order the games you're going to keep an eye on this week for the sporting news. You're their superstar. Obviously, Texas, Oklahoma is huge, but like you just pointed out, Indiana at Oregon.
That's the game.
There's huge implications there, ramifications.
Well, it's going to be a fun day tomorrow. I can't wait. I mean, first set, you'll have Alabama, Missouri, Ohio State, Illinois, kind of 2 TV that one off the couch this weekend.
Yeah.
Indiana, Oregon for sure. And then late, you'll watch Michigan, USC. And keep an eye on, you said something's very interesting. Georgia, I think they're very good. Why are they only 3-point favorites against Auburn?
Yeah.
And then
but it's at Auburn. That's tough.
Then for those of us that like to stay up late, Utah, Arizona State maybe without Sam Levitt.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. So
absolutely.
And then we'll be at midseason, which is crazy.
Isn't it funny how we want to know what's going to happen, but you can't just let it happen?
Right.
This is a weekend to just sit back and let it happen.
Enjoy it.
And by the way, it's not a full moon anymore, so maybe it won't be as crazy. Hey, Bill Bender sitting in for, I was going to say the incomparable Clay Hall, but not really. I mean, you did extremely well.
I said every time I come on with you guys, Clay, I watching Clay when I was in high school, right?
Yeah.
And I've been reading you since I was in high school. Before I got into this field, what was I thinking?
You're going to say you've been reading me since you learned how to read when you were 12. No, I'm just messing.
No. You guys are fantastic. I'm always honored to come on. And like I said, maybe we can do this again before they play the Michigan game.
Absolutely, brother. Mark it down. There's another 2 hamburgers I got to buy Bill Bender, ladies and gentlemen. But, for Bill, for Clay, and for myself, this has been the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, but ultra featuring Bill Bender. Until next time, we'll see you then.